deep in Perek Gimel, Rabbeim has shown us the necessity of Cheshbon Nefesh and showed us a lot about what it contains, how to do it, 2 ashkavas we need, what is the good, and how do my actions stand up to that yardstick. Create the yardstick for yourself and then check yourself against that yardstick. Pishpush, mishmush. And then Rabbeinu had said, I see a personal thing, a person should engage in this daily. We said, okay, monthly, etc., but a lot. And now we continue with some real chidushim. Let's see. Our rabbis have guided us, shown us, harunu, taught us, like Torah is hora, taught us clearly the necessity of this cheshbon. Now, Alkain, therefore, Yomru Hamoshlim Bo Cheshbon. These are quite difficult psukim, lefi pshutam, in the simple pshat in the Torah. But the words here aren't that difficult, right? There was a happening that happened to Klal Yisrael, and it talks about Moshlim, which means controllers, like Memshala, Hila Hashem Hamalucha Omoshel by Goyim. In Hebrew, we call a governor Moshel. Like if you talk about the modern Hebrew, if you talk about the governor of New York, you'd say Hamoshel Shel New York. Not the mayor, the governor. That's how we use it. But I don't think the word biblically means governor per se, but it means something like Memshala, or Memshala, the Memshala. So this is something that Moshlim said Bo Cheshbon. They said, let's go Bo Cheshbon. Let us go to Cheshbon. I mean, let's go to the place. There's a place called Cheshbon, and the rulers, governors, etc., said, let's go to that place. But Chazal take the pasuk in a whole different way and show a whole different message. And then now we're not talking about non-Jewish or just governmental ministers going to a place called Cheshbon, but it's the Moshlim, certain type of Moshel, the real Moshlim, that told us do a Cheshbon, not the place of Cheshbon, but do a Cheshbon, do an evaluation, do a calculation of your life. Al-Kain, we continue. This is the Gemara Bavasar. Yomru HaMoshlim Bitzrim. Oh, those are Moshe and the Yetzer Hara that we spoke about so much in the last parak in our addendums. They're those that are Moshel in that Yetzer Hara. We're going to explain this. Bezrat Hashem. Bo nechashiv cheshbonu shel olam. Come and let's consider the calculation of the world. What calculations does a person have to make? Now, the Gemara says a pretty specific calculation. Mesilas Yesharim seems to be taking it as a general idea more than just the specific one. The specific cheshbon, I mean, it's quite a wide specific cheshbon, you'll see what I mean. Hefsid mitzvah keneged schara. Consider the loss of a mitzvah against its schar. And schar avera keneged hefseda. And the reward of the sin against its hefsid. There could be a certain hefsid in a mitzvah. A person thinks to himself, I have to do a mitzvah. I'm out with my family, and they might not be so from, maybe they don't bench all the time, maybe they even know about benching, and maybe they want to leave. But I know I'm chayiv d'oraisa. I had a good meal out with the family. I had svia chalta v'savata v'iracht. I'm chayiv right now. If I'd be chayiv d'orabana, it would be enough. But I am chayiv d'oraisa right now to bench, right? And people wait for each other sometimes, and I wait for my brothers and sisters and cousins all the time. They're finishing up a game or finishing up a text or finishing up this one. I want to bench for 2 minutes. Totally fine. But you don't feel right. So there's a certain hefsid. People are waiting for you. You feel a little uncomfortable, hot on the collar. Maybe they don't appreciate it. Like, wait, you made a blessing before, right? And before we went out, you prayed. So how much do you have to do? I mean, you prayed already. I remember, right? You went, that was cool by me, but you prayed. And we waited, and okay, and now beforehand you washed your hands, and then you made the blessing. Then I remember the blessing on the bread. You told us that, okay, and then now you're making another blessing. Okay, so you're feeling uncomfortable. That's a hefset to you. That's a lack. But can I get schara? Think about the difficulty, but consider it against the schar, the reward. I live with meaning. I live with purpose. I live with the Ronashal. I'm doing what he wants. I'm getting schar nitzchi. No pain, no gain. Echa b'tzar shavu l'mei shel b'tzar. One mitzvah done with difficulty is worth 100 done without difficulty. This is so much more meaningful because I feel hot under the collar. Right? Everybody's engaged in a little lashon hara. And if I add, and I'm a sharp person, I can make the joke. And it'd be funny, and people would laugh. And their opinion of me would go up in a certain way. And I'm losing that. That's a hefsid. But can I get schara? What are you gaining by not saying lashon hara? What are you gaining by being someone that people know doesn't say lashon hara? How much more faith do they have in you ultimately because they know you won't say lashon hara about them? Hefsid mitzvah keneged schara. Consider it. That's Moshlim, who told us that the Moshlim, the Yitzram, we'll talk about that idea in a second, the Moshlim, but the Moshlim, the one who control the Yetzer Hara, they told us get engaged in this tactic, yes. And also the Schar Veri Keneged Efseda, the Schar Veri, feels geschmack. You say Lashon Hara, delicious, a good line, right? The food with the questionable hechsher, it felt good. But what's the hefsid? You're not living with your values. You feel like you're a fake. Afterwards, you're going to wake up. You're going to be upset about the fact you put on all those calories. Even that, right? That's what we see. That's a great example of a simple one. The overeating. That's a big affair like lashon hara chas v'shalom. But l'maisa, right? A second on your lips, forever on your hips. Schar, keneged hefsid. You have to consider that. That's the cheshbon. Al kain yomer moshlim bo cheshbon. What's their eitzatas? What did the moshlim b'yitzram tell us? Make a cheshbon. Consider, right? Now again, here the cheshbon that the Chazal make is specific, which the Mesilas Yesharim doesn't really go into. So I think he's understanding that's like an example, or maybe the prime example, the best example, something like that. But the idea is generally a person has to live with cheshbon. And who told us that? The moshlim told us. Live with cheshbon, man. This is what's going to get you to the next level. This is what's going to get you there. Live with a cheshbon. B'zeh. Now watch what he does here. This is just incredible when you think about it. Ki eitza mitis hazos. This true eitza, this true counsel. Lo yuchlu l'teidota. Lo l'rod amitasa. Not every person could say it. And we discussed earlier in our discussions on Torah, what's the difference between secular literature, secular eitzas, and Torah eitzah, and why we have to be engaged like Sfarim, like the Mesilas Yesharim, and not just, certainly not just, or not at all, but certainly not just self-help books, let them, etc., 7 Habits, because they had a perspective, another angle. They had a perspective which no one working without Torah would have. And you can't, the lesson of 7 Habits is not going to be a lesson of the Mesilas Yesharim, because he wasn't working with what they were working with. It could be he said nice things. It could be said good things. It could be things that gained you, but it's a different perspective. It's a whole different level, like we say. Lo yuchlu l'teidota. They could not give it. V'lo l'rod amitas, and they wouldn't even see the truth of it. Only those who have left the Yetzer Hara and are moshel now. Someone who's still contained. Lichbosh means like a band is takboshet, something that's tied around. Someone who's tied around, but maser yitzar on the shackles of his yitzar. Ein anon v'ros ha'emes hazos. He doesn't see. He won't perceive it. The Yetzer covers his eyes. So this is an incredible idea. We have to focus on this for a second and take this in. There are things that when you're in the battle, certainly when you're losing the battle, you can't see, and you won't perceive, and you won't understand. A great example of this, just as an example, is everybody knows, one of the tactics you use with an alcoholic is he has to hit bottom, ground zero, right? The floor has to fall. I don't have an alcohol problem. I just don't. It's okay. I've probably given this mushroom before. But then when his wife's not there the next day, finally when he wakes up, right? What changed? He can't see it. He does not see the problem. To us, it's so obvious. See, that's a problem when we perceive someone else's problem. So you don't see that you're socially inept. You don't see that you have gaiva. You don't see that people turned off from you. You don't see that you're angry. No, I don't see it. We all don't see it. I'm just doing my thing, right? So we don't see the issues. So the moshlim, and now here's the point. But he's talking about two ksavas, right? But most of us are in the middle, right? We're like more like a Beinani. Zeb shoftam. Right, the one who's Moshe B'Yitzur, David HaMelech, Yeshaya, Cheskel, Chazal, they're Moshe B'Yitzur, that they, Baruch Hashem, they arose above the fray of this world, and they look down afterwards and perceive things. And they can see things that we can't see. And it's important to understand that. There are topics which I feel more confident speaking about, and topics I feel less confident speaking about, because I know certain topics are difficult for me. So I speak about them with a lot less hesitation, a lot less surety, because I'm also stuck. And it doesn't mean you can't talk about it, but the way you're going to speak about such a thing in a different way, then something you have more of a sense about. I think it's important for all of us to recognize that there are limitations. That it's fine to have a limitation. I mean, if you have it, you have it, and you have to be cognizant of that and not ignore it and not speak on every topic like you really know what you're talking about. If you don't, this is very, very powerful. Bon cheshbon. I mean, what he said, you make a calculation. No. Chazal could see this. Alkin yomer moshlim. That moshlim b'yitzram are the ones who could see and perceive. Now, another thing that comes out from this, that's why we have to grab onto these svarim. Mesilas Yesharim is not a sefer. It's life. It's a connection. Because he saw, we know who he was, we know how he lived, and Kol Chachamenu, the Baal Shem, Bali Chasidus, the Bali Musar, such great men that we had that led the way for us. I was just recently, engaged in the swarm of, let's say, last generation, Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky and Rav Hutner and Rav Moshe Feinstein. Those are three that I was dealing with. And I was thinking how lucky the door was that we had such lights, such lights. There's a book about Rav Hutner called The Inner Life. It could be I've mentioned before. You see how he lived. You see how he thought. It's mind-boggling. It's just mind-boggling that someone was perceiving life with such omic, with such depth. Eretz Yisrael, Talmidim, Torah, the Maral. Men touched the Maral's kever and he burst into tears for hours and hours and hours. Our last generation, Moshe Shapiro, my son told me he saw recently a picture of Moshe Shapiro at the Maral's kever, or maybe Rav Nachman, I forgot, but red with tears. People would cry. I remember seeing my own Rosh Yeshiva, Psiko Shalasik, crying like a baby. Such a gull and such a sickly dick person. Mashgiach of the yeshiva, Moshe Shimon Weintraub lost his daughter. Bawling. I mean, I'm not saying that bawling is where it's at all that. That's a sign of greatness. But we have to grab our chachamim. We have to realize Ashreinu Matov Chalkenu, that we have lights like that to lead us, and that we're all b'maser yitzreinu on one level or the other. I'm speaking, to all of us, and but Baruch Hashem, there were people who were above it. No, does it mean that they had no possible chisar? That's a different question. But they were above it. They're above it. My Rebbe Rabbi used to say that halavai, my mitzvahs would be like Moshe Feinstein's averis. We know. Read the Gra, the Sifrit Sanusa, the Hakdama, how the Rabbi Chaim writes about him. 3 days Rabbeinu couldn't eat if he had something that was difficult to him. When the Gra finished his Perush on Shir Shirim, he called his Talmidim in. He lit like 100 candles. This is basically a basic aid. I forget which Talmud wrote this, but it's basically him quoting something that was actually written from someone who was there, first-hand information. And he said, the Gra said, I finished Kolatar Kula. He didn't mean he read it, friends. He means he finished it. I understand it deeply. I know all the words. I understand the whole thing, besides 2 places in Zohar, which I don't get. I think this is what he said. And I would go to the ends of the earth if someone could tell me the pshat in these things. It's mind-boggling. The Gra wrote about himself, about it. There's a Gemara, a very confusing Gemara, in a very interesting Gemara in Sukkah about Sasan v'Simcha, 2 apikorsim, one called Simcha, one called Sasan. And they're making fun of each other. And the Gra said that the Rishonim didn't understand this. Vanim mivino told, I understand it. I got it. I understand what it's saying. Al pi Kabbalah. I don't even know if Al pi Kabbalah is the right way to say it. He doesn't mean he just had like a nice vort to say about it. But that was a person who lived only 200 years ago, 250 years ago. Daily Baal Hashem, look what he did, look what he founded. And they lived for us, and we're there. But we have to connect our words. We have to connect to the tzaddikim who's battle to them. Understand that ba'orim nira or, through their light we can see light. We can connect to them and get to things. But we have to take the swarm the right way. It's not just, read the Chovos HaLevavos. It's nice ideas. Adopt a few, not adopt a few. Very nice, very interesting. It's an interesting book. It was a good read. Mesilas Yesharim was a good read. Good read. Because they were emotional b'yitzram. Right? V'chein b'chol dor v'dor, and our door also. Baruch Hashem, we still have great rabbanim that, Lefi Madrigas say, the doors go down, but they're still Moshe b'yitzram in a whole different place. They're we have people that are on a whole different level, that are living life in a different way, that perceive things differently. Yep. Okay, let's go on a little bit. Okay, Yetzer Mesames Ein Mamish, but the Yetzer covers our eyes. And it's like he's someone who's going in the darkness. And he has stumbling blocks. Or something, and you just can't see them. He doesn't see it. You're walking, you don't see it. I mean, what's wrong? She's such a nice girl. Wealthy, beautiful, good midos, nice family, good values. There's one problem. Her name is Christine McCarthy. And her mother's not Jewish either. That's the problem. I don't see it. She'll convert. We'll get over it. The eyes don't see the problem because the Yetzer Hara covers that. It's important. Another point I just want to reflect on. The Rabbeim is telling us that it's not just the Yetzer Hara makes us do things we don't want to do. It ruins our perception, our eyes, our perceiving. Not just that my body takes me where I don't want to go. My perception is thrown off. I don't see things right. This world. This world is like the night. And we'll continue with that in the next session.